Now that I'm in charge, you're out. That's what she said, standing in her black dress, fresh from her daddy's funeral, with her freshly manicured hand pointing at the resignation letter on my desk like it was some victory banner. Her name was Samantha, and I used to think she was the love of my life. But now, she looked like a devil in heels, wearing grief like a designer suit. Fake tears, real power. Her smirk was the kind you don't forget. That smug, twisted little grin of someone who's waited so long to finally stick the knife in, and now was savoring every inch of the twist. You're fired, she repeated, slower this time, like she wanted to taste the words. I stood there quiet, didn't flinch, didn't blink. I just stared into those cold, calculating eyes and said one word. Perfect. That's when her face changed. Not because of me, not because I said it, but because her phone buzzed, and she saw the name on the screen, Gerald Whitman, her father's lawyer. She turned pale. That's where the storm started. I should probably rewind for a second. Not too far, just to a week ago. Samantha's dad, Mr. Charles Maddox, had built a legacy from scratch. An empire in logistics. The man was brilliant, old school, respected. I worked under him for 8 years, and 5 of those I spent married to his daughter. At first, everything seemed real. The romance, the passion, the partnership. But I guess I should have noticed the signs, the way she looked at me like I was beneath her, especially when her friends were around. The sarcastic digs, the fake compliments, the nights she worked late and came home smelling like men's cologne that wasn't mine. But I stayed, maybe because I loved her, or maybe I was just too damn loyal. The night Charles died, I held her while she fake cried in our bed. But her eyes were dry after 20 minutes. And her phone? Buzzing all night. I made the mistake of checking it. No passcode. Maybe she thought I'd never dare. There he was. J. Collins Red Heart Fire. The messages were exactly what you'd expect. Nasty. Shameless. Sent while I was in the shower. I miss your hands. Can't stop thinking about last night. Does he suspect anything yet? I didn't sleep that night. I just watched her snore next to me like nothing mattered. I wasn't ready to explode yet. I needed more. I needed everything. So I kept the texts. Took screenshots. Sent them to myself. Then I followed her. Twice in 1 week. She said she was going to grief counseling. She ended up at Hotel Meridian, room 509. I watched her kiss him through the window. Jason Collins, one of the board members. A guy I helped get promoted. A guy who once asked me for career advice over whiskey. The next day, I found out Charles's will had triggered a change in company leadership. Since his wife had passed years ago and Samantha was the only child, she was made interim president until legal proceedings finalized. And what was her first act? Fire her husband. On paper, it was restructuring. In reality, it was her little victory parade. But she didn't know what I knew. She didn't know that Gerald, her dad's lawyer, had contacted me 2 days prior. Turns out, Charles didn't trust his daughter. He knew she was reckless. Maybe he even knew she was cheating. So in a confidential clause, he named me as the true heir to 60% of company shares if I stayed married to her until probate was complete. Otherwise, the shares go into a trust for charity. That's why I didn't explode. That's why I said, perfect. Because she just made her biggest mistake. And Gerald's email? She opened it in front of me, expecting congratulations. What she read made her knees buckle. As per the enclosed confidential clause of Mr. Maddox's will, effective immediately, Mr. Ryan Maddox is to assume control of 60% of Maddox Logistics. She dropped the phone. I picked it up, showed her the next part. Any action taken to sever the marriage prematurely, such as forced termination of employment or public humiliation, will be seen as a breach. Legal consequences apply. She looked at me like I was a ghost. And that was just the beginning. You think it ends here? No. It gets worse. For her. Because that resignation letter she planted, I already made copies and forwarded it to Gerald the night before, along with the hotel photos. Let the games begin. She stood there frozen, like a statue in heels, staring at the screen as if it might change the words if she looked hard enough. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. For once in her life, Samantha had nothing to say. No insult. No fake tears. No sarcastic laugh. I leaned in, close enough to smell her expensive perfume. You sure you want to play this game with me? I whispered. Because I've already moved my queen. Her jaw clenched. She stepped back, her hands trembling slightly as she snatched the phone from my hand and stormed out of the office. I stayed. sat down at my desk, the desk she tried to kick me out of, and opened my email. Sent one message to HR, marked confidential. Just a short sentence. Please do not proceed with any changes to my contract until further notice. Legal documentation attached. She thought she was 2 steps ahead. She didn't realize I'd already finished the race. But I wasn't done. That night, I pretended nothing had happened. I came home at the usual time. She was already there, pacing the kitchen like a cornered animal. Her wine glass was full, untouched, and she had her laptop open like she was still in control of something. I'm not discussing this, she blurted the moment I walked in. You tricked my father. I laughed. A bitter, tired kind of laugh. You think I tricked Charles? He gave me those shares because he didn't trust you. And now you're mad you finally proved him right. She threw the wine glass. It missed by inches, shattered against the fridge. You're pathetic, Ryan. You've always been pathetic. Do you think he respected you? He pitied you. I stepped closer. Pity me? He warned me about you. He didn't just give me the shares. He gave me every conversation you ever had behind my back. Her face twisted. What the hell are you talking about? I pulled out a flash drive from my jacket pocket and held it up. Recordings, babe. Boardroom meetings. Your lovely pillow talk with Jason. You said some pretty nasty things about Daddy. Said he was too old to matter and 1 foot in the grave. Her mouth opened, then shut again. I could see her brain scrambling, calculating. But she was losing ground fast. You're bluffing, she hissed. Then call Gerald, I said. Ask him what else your daddy left me. Ask him if he gave me copies. Better yet, ask him what happens if you violate the clause again. She backed up like I just punched her. You're a monster. No, Samantha, I said quietly. You are. I just finally stopped pretending you weren't. She tried again to play the victim. Tears welled up. She softened her voice. We don't have to do this. Look, maybe we both made mistakes. We were stressed. You didn't always support me, and Jason was a mistake. But I didn't mean to hurt you. You still mean something to me. I stared at her. That fake compassion, those calculated tears, it made my skin crawl. Tell me something, I said. When did you plan to tell me? Before or after you drained the joint account? She flinched. Yeah, I'd seen that too. The bank transfers. Little by little, she was going to run. Probably with Jason. Or maybe she was just planning to leave me broke and humiliated. You want to talk about monsters? I added. You plan to take everything. Lie to me. Fire me. Cheat on me. And smile while doing it. She dropped the act. Fine, she snapped. I never loved you. I married you to make my dad happy. You were a boring, safe choice. But guess what? I'm not playing by Daddy's rules anymore. I nodded slowly. Glad to hear it. She frowned. What's that supposed to mean? I'm recording this conversation. She froze. I pointed to the camera in the corner of the living room. One she had installed for security years ago and forgot about. It had full audio. Everything you just said? It's going straight to Gerald. And the board. She lunged at the camera like a rabid dog, grabbing a stool and smashing it. Shards flew across the hardwood floor. Too late. The footage had already been saved to the cloud. I walked out of the house that night, but not before I looked her dead in the eyes and said, You're going to lose everything, Samantha. Not because I hate you, but because you never knew who you were playing with. The last thing I heard before the door closed behind me was her screaming and glass breaking again. But I didn't turn back. Not this time. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was heartbroken. Those feelings had started dying months ago, but because I was thinking, planning. Every breath I took was sharper, heavier, like I was crawling out of the grave she dug for me. By morning, Samantha had already sent an email to the board, trying to clarify her firing attempt. She claimed it was a misunderstanding, a joke even. Said she and I had an offbeat sense of humor. It was cute, honestly. Especially since I'd already sent Gerald a copy of her breakdown from last night, with a timestamp. Her smirk when she said, You're out, was immortalized in HD. At 9:42 a.m., the board called an emergency meeting. I showed up calm, wearing the same navy suit Charles once said made me look like I ran the room. I wasn't sure what to expect, but when I walked in and saw Jason Collins sitting 3 chairs down from Samantha, avoiding eye contact, I knew I had the upper hand. She still looked flawless. Always did. That was part of her power. Clean lines, red lipstick, posture that screamed, I win. But not today. Today, there was a tremble in her wrist. She clutched her coffee like it might steady her nerves. The meeting was brutal. Gerald joined via video. He didn't waste time. Mr. Maddox, he began. Before your death, Charles left clear instructions regarding the company's leadership and trust conditions. We've reviewed the evidence Mr. Ryan Maddox provided, including unauthorized termination attempts and behavior unbecoming of a company president. Samantha jumped in. Wait, Gerald held up a hand. This is not a debate. You violated Clause 8B of the conditional trust. As of this moment, the company recognizes Ryan Maddox as the acting CEO until the formal probate is finalized. Any further resistance may result in legal action. Jason shifted in his seat like a guilty schoolboy. He didn't say a word, just stared down at the table, hands folded, sweat building on his temples. Samantha's knuckles were white on her coffee cup. You're siding with him? After everything I've done for this company? You mean sleeping with one of the board members? I said, casually flipping a photo on the conference screen. Her jaw dropped. The photo showed her and Jason leaving Hotel Meridian. Her hand was on his chest, his lips on her neck. Security cam footage Gerald helped me secure just in time. A few gasps around the table. A couple of uncomfortable coughs. Jason stood up, trying to salvage his dignity. I didn't know she was still married. She told me they were separated. I smiled. That's not what she told me. Last week in our bed. She turned to him, furious. Are you seriously throwing me under the bus right now? Jason looked like he wanted to vanish. The board voted to suspend both of them pending review. As I walked out of that room, Samantha followed me into the hallway, her heels clicking like gunshots. You think this is over? She hissed. You think you've won? No, I said. I know I have. You ruined me. No, I repeated. You did that all by yourself. I just showed them the footage. She laughed bitterly. You're not the good guy in this, Ryan. I turned to her, my voice steady. I never claimed to be. I'm just the guy who finally stopped playing the fool. She stood there, frozen in that hallway, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. That night, I returned to the house to pack. I didn't want a damn thing from her, not even the furniture. Let her keep the shell she'd turned into a home of lies. The only thing I took was my father-in-law's watch, the one he gave me 2 years ago after we closed a major deal together. I found it in her jewelry drawer, buried under gold chains and expensive perfume. As I closed the drawer, I noticed something strange, an envelope addressed to her. Handwritten, shaky script. I opened it. It was from Charles. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and I failed to fix what I created. You never loved him, I know that now. But I hoped you'd grow into someone who could. If you've betrayed him, know this. I chose him for a reason. He is everything you are not. And if you try to burn him, he'll walk through the fire. I just stood there, silent, heart pounding. He knew. Even at the end, the old man saw through her. I left the letter where I found it. It wasn't mine to keep, but its words lit a fire inside me I hadn't felt in years. I walked out for good this time, and I didn't look back. But this was far from over. I didn't even make it 2 blocks from the house before my phone rang. It was Gerald again. Ryan, he said, calm as ever, just a heads up. Samantha's trying to move some company funds into a private account. I've already flagged it. Do you want to press charges or let the board handle it? I stopped walking, stared at a passing car for a moment, thinking about the kind of person I'd married. 5 years, and I didn't really know her. Or maybe I just didn't want to see her for what she was. Let the board handle it, for now, I said. I want her to keep swinging. I want everyone to see how deep her claws go. Gerald chuckled. Understood. I hung up and headed to the one place I never thought I'd return to, my old apartment. I hadn't been there since I moved in with Samantha. It still had dust on the windows, but the furniture was the same. Minimal, clean, real. Not like the overpriced modern nonsense she filled our house with. I poured myself a drink. Sat down. Thought, how did I let it get this far? I could still see her in my mind. Samantha, back in the early days. Smiling, charming, full of wild energy. She used to make me feel like the center of the universe. But now I knew better. That smile? It wasn't warmth. It was strategy. A mask. Everything about her was calculated. The first real crack in her mask came a year ago, but I ignored it. She'd come home late, reeking of some unfamiliar scent, her lipstick smudged. When I asked where she'd been, she claimed it was a girls' night that ended in too many cocktails. I wanted to believe her, but deep down, I knew. And now, after all the lies, the betrayal, the power plays, it was finally my move. I didn't sleep much that night either. Couldn't. Not with everything boiling under my skin. The next morning, I showed up at the office early. Earlier than usual. I wanted to be there before anyone else. Before the whispers started. Before she could get ahead of the narrative again. I walked into my office now, and what do I see? Roses. A full bouquet, sitting on the desk, tied with a black ribbon. No card. For a second, I thought it was some sick joke. A twisted gift from Samantha. Then I noticed the camera light blinking red. I reached under the desk and found a tiny hidden device taped beneath. Audio recorder. I smiled. She was still trying to play chess, but I'd already flipped the board. I grabbed the bouquet and dumped it in the trash. Then I called security. Within 15 minutes, they found 2 more recorders. One under the boardroom table. Another inside the copy machine. She was desperate now. Spying. Digging. Hoping to catch me slipping. But I wasn't slipping. I was 5 moves ahead. When I walked out into the hall, guess who I ran into? Jason. He looked like hell. Hair a mess, shirt wrinkled, eyes red like he hadn't slept. Probably hadn't. Ryan. Man, listen. He started, hands up like a man facing a loaded gun. I didn't know she'd take it that far. I swear. She told me you were separated. Said it was complicated. I stared at him. Jason, you were at my wedding. He winced. I know it was wrong. But she said. I don't care what she said. He nodded, swallowing hard. You're right. I screwed up. I stepped closer. You didn't just screw up. You put your career, your name, your dignity on the line for a woman who used you the second it benefited her. And now? She's already calling other board members. You think you were special? He didn't respond. I left him there, guilt all over his face like blood on a crime scene. By noon, the board had finalized a temporary restraining order. Samantha was barred from entering the company premises without written permission. Her emails were frozen. Her access revoked. She didn't take it well. She showed up anyway. Security stopped her at the lobby. She screamed. She made a scene. Cameras caught everything. That perfect mask? Shattered in public now. She called me 6 times that evening. I didn't pick up. Then came the texts. You're destroying me. You'll regret this. Please talk to me, Ryan. Please. I didn't mean for this to go so far. I still love you. Jason meant nothing. This isn't the end. I read them all in silence. Then blocked the number. Because she was right about one thing. This wasn't the end. But it sure as hell was the beginning of mine. The next morning, I woke up to find an envelope slid under my apartment door. No stamp. No address. Just my name in rushed handwriting. Ryan. I stared at it for a long minute, debating whether to toss it unopened. But curiosity wins more often than pride, doesn't it? I peeled it open and found a single photo inside. It was her. Samantha. Sitting across from someone I didn't recognize at first. Gray suit, smug face, a little scar above his eyebrow. Then I saw the name scrawled on the back in blue ink. Andrew Blake. Private investigator. Call me. 555-497-2241. What the hell was this? I didn't call. Not right away. I drove to the office instead, thinking maybe this was another one of her games. Another angle. Another pathetic attempt to regain control. But around lunchtime, Gerald sent me a message. We need to talk. Privately. So I stepped out, called the number on the back of the photo. Andrew Blake, a gruff voice answered. You dropped something under my door. I did, he said. And I was hired by someone to tail you. But things got interesting. I went quiet. You were supposed to be the target, he continued. But your wife? She's got a trail of secrets she never thought anyone would bother to follow. I've got files. Bank accounts. A burner phone she uses to talk to someone named Mikey. Wire transfers. Cayman Islands. My grip on the phone tightened. You free this afternoon? He asked. Come to the office, I said. Bring everything. An hour later, I met him in the conference room. No tie. Beat-up leather folder under his arm. He spread everything out in front of me like he was laying down cards in the final round of a poker game. I read through the papers in silence. Offshore accounts. Fake business consulting invoices. One account had over 200 grand moved in chunks over the past 7 months. She wasn't just screwing around. She was planning to vanish. Who hired you? I asked. Eyes still on the documents. He hesitated. Technically, Jason Collins. He wanted dirt on you. Thought you were hiding money. But then your wife showed up to meet me instead. Paid me double to switch targets. So she turned on Jason, too. Looks like it. I leaned back in my chair, processing everything. This wasn't betrayal anymore. This was war. That night, I went home and watched the wedding video for the first time in years. Not because I missed her, God no. I just wanted to remember how blind I'd been. I needed to see the moment I signed away my soul to a woman who would later try to bury me alive. There was this one shot where she turned to me, smiled, and whispered something. Back then, I thought it was, "I love you." But watching it now, reading her lips, it wasn't. She said, "I win." My phone buzzed again. New number. The message. "You think you've got it all figured out. You're not safe. Watch your back." No name. No signature. I knew it was her. Or someone she paid. And suddenly, the stakes changed. I forwarded the message to Gerald. Filed a police report. Hired security for the office. Maybe it was empty threats. Maybe it wasn't. I wasn't going to roll the dice on that. 3 days later, the audit results came in. Samantha had embezzled over $480,000 from Maddox Logistics in under a year. Most of it laundered through fake vendors linked to shell corporations. The board was livid. Gerald filed charges. A warrant followed. She was arrested at a country club, wearing white, drinking champagne, acting like the queen of a kingdom already on fire. The mugshot made headlines. I didn't smile when I saw it. I didn't feel anything, actually. Just relief. One of the board members asked if I wanted to make a public statement. I said no. Let the facts speak. Let her lies collapse on their own weight. She called me from jail once. I didn't answer. The voicemail? This wasn't how it was supposed to go. You were supposed to forgive me. We were supposed to fix this. I can't be in here, Ryan. I can't. I deleted it. Because finally, the noise was gone. And all that remained was silence. The kind of silence that comes after a storm so violent, it tears the roof off everything, but leaves you standing. The silence didn't last. Not even a full week passed before the next wave hit me, harder than I expected. It was a Sunday morning. I was making coffee in my old apartment, the one that still smelled like wood polish and old memories. I hadn't turned on the TV. Didn't want to. But then Gerald called. "Have you checked the news?" he asked, voice tense. "No." "What?" "She's out." "What?" "Her lawyer pulled something. Technicality. Bail hearing got moved up. She posted it in cash." Of course she did. That offshore money she siphoned? The authorities hadn't frozen all of it yet. I shouldn't have been surprised, but I still dropped the mug. It shattered against the tile floor. "Do we know where she is?" I asked. "She's back at the house." The house. My house. The one I left, thinking I was walking away from a battlefield that was already scorched to the ground. But the war wasn't over. An hour later, I was parked 2 blocks away, watching through binoculars like some third-rate PI in a bad movie. And there she was, Samantha, stepping out onto the porch in a silk robe, sipping orange juice like it was just another day in Malibu. No remorse. No shame. Just a woman who knew how to survive. And then someone else stepped out after her. Not Jason. Not even Mikey from the texts. Her mother. I hadn't seen Linda in over a year. A woman who smiled through her teeth and taught her daughter that manipulation wasn't a flaw, but an art form. They hugged, laughed, sat in the sun together like 2 predators sunbathing after a kill. It hit me harder than I expected. I realized in that moment, Samantha wasn't acting alone. She never had. This had always been generational. Polished nails, expensive shoes, and knives hidden in the designer handbags. Her mother raised her to hunt men like me. Win them. Use them. Discard them. That evening, I got an email from an anonymous sender. No subject line. One attachment, a video file. I opened it. It was footage from inside a hotel room. Samantha was lying on the bed, laughing, wearing nothing. Not fully exposed, but enough to get the message. A man, not Jason, someone new, was filming her. Her voice echoed through my speakers. "You think he suspects anything yet?" God, Ryan's so easy to fool. He asked her something I couldn't hear. She giggled and said, "He still thinks we're working on the marriage. That man would believe anything if you smile long enough." She reached for the camera and whispered into the lens. "This one's for you, baby. Just in case you ever find out, know this. I never loved you." I shut the laptop. Not from pain. From rage. The video had been recorded months ago, back when she was still sleeping in my bed, still kissing me goodbye in the mornings, still pretending she wanted kids someday. I didn't send it to the police. I didn't forward it to Gerald. I sat there with it, burning into my mind, etching every word into my memory. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I pulled out the old Glock my father left me, took it apart, cleaned it. Not because I planned to use it, but because I needed the ritual, the calm, the reminder of control. I wasn't going to hurt her. That's what she'd expect. No, I was going to bury her in truth. The next morning, I walked into the office and called a full staff meeting. Everyone, from the janitor to the CFO. I stood in front of them and laid it all out. The affair, the embezzlement, the manipulation, the way she tried to destroy me from the inside out. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I told them the truth. And when it was done, there was silence. Then came the clapping. Not wild, not theatrical, but slow, steady, respectful. People stood, not because I was some hero, but because they'd watched this woman poison the place for years. And someone finally pulled the plug. That night, Samantha called again, from a new number. This time I answered. I saw what you did, she said. Her voice was raw. I did what you never could, I replied. What's that supposed to mean? I told the truth. There was a pause. Then, you think you're clean in all this? You think you're the victim? You married me, Ryan. That's your crime. I almost laughed. No, Samantha. My crime was loving you. My sentence was surviving you. And I hung up. That was the last time we spoke. But it wasn't the last time I heard from her. It was about a month later. I was finally breathing again. Sleep came easier. Meals didn't taste like cardboard. And for the first time in years, I could hear my own thoughts without her voice clawing at the edges. Then the envelope came. Again. No return address. Just my name, black marker this time. Thick strokes, like it was written by someone in a hurry. I opened it slowly, expecting more poison. Inside, a paternity test. Positive. Jason Collins, 0% match. Ryan Maddox, 99.99% probability. Underneath was a sonogram photo. 8 weeks pregnant. Scribbled on the bottom in red ink. You're the father, Ryan. Like it or not. I stared at it for a long time. My pulse didn't even quicken. No panic. No emotion. Because it was a lie. I'd had a vasectomy 3 years ago. Secretly. Samantha wanted kids, or at least said she did, but I knew back then something felt off. I didn't trust her to raise a child. Didn't even trust her to keep a plan alive. I had the procedure done and told no one. Not her. Not even Gerald. So now? This was her last card. Desperation wrapped in mascara and deception. I called my lawyer. Had him file a formal denial of paternity. Sent over my medical records. Done and dusted in a day. But it didn't stop her. She started showing up. At the office. At restaurants. At my apartment once, standing in the rain like a scene from a low-budget soap opera. Crying. Screaming. Laughing. Sometimes all in the same breath. One night, she climbed onto the hood of my car, drunk out of her mind, pounding her fists and yelling. You think you can erase me? You can't erase me, Ryan. I didn't say a word. I just filmed it. Sent the footage to her parole officer. A week later, she was back behind bars. Violation of court orders. Restraining order this time. Not requested by me, but by the city. Public nuisance. But in the back of my mind, I kept wondering, what made her snap this hard? I got my answer 2 days later. Another email from Gerald. Subject line. Her mother knew. Inside was a PDF. A copy of a second will, signed by Charles Maddox 3 weeks before his death. Turns out, Samantha's mother, Linda, had forged financial documents. Helped Samantha embezzle. Helped her set up fake contracts. There was even proof she coached her daughter on how to fire me and take over the company while pretending to mourn. Charles knew. That's why he added one final clause. If both Samantha and Linda Maddox are found guilty of financial misconduct, all family shares shall be forfeited to the next qualified board member. Ryan Maddox. That was the moment it clicked. This wasn't a marriage. It was a con. A 5-year, slow drip, strategically executed betrayal backed by bloodline greed. And now it was mine. All of it. Every share. Every office. Every square inch of what Charles built. Because the moment they chose to turn on each other, Samantha and her mother, the whole plan crumbled. Gerald finalized everything by the end of the week. The company was mine. I stood in Charles's old office, looking out at the skyline, holding the final signed papers in one hand and that first photo, the wedding one, in the other. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel victorious. I felt clean, like something toxic had been drained from my body drop by drop, and for the first time in years, I could breathe without a mask. The phone buzzed once more. A new number. Another voicemail. You win. I hope you choke on it. I deleted it without listening to the rest. Because I didn't win. I survived. It was a strange kind of peace that followed. Not quiet, not still, but empty, like a battlefield after the smoke clears and the dead are buried. You don't celebrate. You just stand there, looking at what's left, and wonder how the hell you made it through. I moved out of the old apartment. Got a place by the water. Small, simple, clean lines, real furniture, nothing picked by someone else. No fake marble countertops. No hidden recorders. No screaming through walls at 2 a.m. The company was running smoother than ever. People stopped walking on eggshells. Clients returned. Investors stayed. The poison was gone. Gerald invited me to dinner one night, and over drinks, he said something that stuck with me. She underestimated you, Ryan. You played the long game. Quietly. Patiently. I nodded, then replied, I didn't play to win. I played to outlast. And that's what it was. Survival. I didn't come out richer in spirit. I wasn't stronger in some noble, poetic way. I just wasn't her victim anymore. They gave Samantha 6 months for financial misconduct, obstruction, and defamation. Her mother got probation. Jason disappeared, resigned, moved out of state. No one cared enough to follow up. I got offers from journalists, book deals, TV appearances. I said no to all of them. Because this story, it wasn't for entertainment. It was a warning. I still carry that first envelope in my drawer, the one with the fake paternity test. Not because I want to remember her, but because it reminds me what blindness looks like. I tell people now, pay attention to the way someone laughs when you're vulnerable, to how they act when you fail, to the small lies they tell, the ones you ignore because love makes you soft. If it feels off, it probably is. If you're making excuses for them more than they're showing up for you, you're already halfway buried. I get asked sometimes if I'd ever marry again. And honestly, I don't know. Not because I don't believe in love, but because I've seen what it looks like in the hands of someone who weaponized it. I know now that the face you fall for can be the same face that ruins you slowly, with a smile. But here's what I do know. The next time I love someone, it won't be because they impressed me. It'll be because they saw all of me, even the broken, bitter pieces, and still stood close, with open hands, not sharpened knives. So yeah, maybe I didn't win, but I walked through hell, and I came out clean. Next time, you can all pay for takeout too. Because I'm done. That was the last sentence I said to a room full of people who once pretended to be my family. The knife I had just used to carve a perfectly roasted turkey still sat beside me on the counter. 15 people. 15 ungrateful mouths. And not a single one of them spoke up when her sister, Lauren, scoffed and said, at least takeout would have been edible. The room had gone dead silent for a second. Just a beat. Just long enough for my wife, Rachel, to let out a snort. That sound, that mocking, heartless sound, like I was the punchline of some private joke I wasn't invited to. And that's when I saw it. Not just heard it. Saw it. In her eyes. That flicker of contempt she tried to mask behind a sip of wine. She didn't see me as a husband anymore. She didn't even see me as a man. I'd spent 10 hours prepping. Brined the turkey overnight. Roasted vegetables with thyme and olive oil. Hand-kneaded the bread. Even made my grandmother's stuffing from scratch. And Rachel had the audacity to laugh. To laugh with them. I ripped off my apron and let it drop to the floor like a white flag I never meant to raise. Their laughter picked up again, some forced, some amused, but I didn't care. I went upstairs, locked the bedroom door behind me, and started canceling every holiday reservation with my name on it. The cabin in Lake Arrowhead for Christmas? Gone. The spring winery tour in Sonoma? Erased. Even the cruise we'd booked for our 10-year anniversary. Wiped clean. And still, not a single text from Rachel. You'd think a wife might ask where her husband went after storming off during Thanksgiving dinner. She didn't. I spent the night on the guest room couch. She never came up. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen and found her giggling on FaceTime. She saw me, rolled her eyes, and walked away mid-laugh. No, good morning. No, let's talk. Just walked off like I didn't exist in my own damn house. Something broke inside me that morning. And I didn't even know the worst part yet. You see, until then, I thought this was just your standard marital drift. We'd grown apart, right? Maybe she was stressed. Maybe I was too focused on work. Maybe her sister's a narcissist and Rachel just didn't know how to stand up to her. That was my mistake. Giving her excuses. Because that very afternoon, I found the real reason why my wife couldn't be bothered to care. I was cleaning up the remnants of dinner, still hoping she might come around, when her iPad buzzed. She always left it on the kitchen counter. Notifications lighting up like a Christmas tree. Text after text from someone saved as Tyler. Work. Yeah, sure. Work. I'm not proud of what I did next. But I tapped it open. No password. I wish I hadn't. The first message? That idiot probably thinks you're still mad about dinner. You're a savage, babe face with tears of joy. The second? Wish I could have tasted you instead of that turkey. And Rachel's reply? Just wait till Saturday. I'll be all yours. I'll fake apologize and sneak out after. I remember gripping the edge of the counter so hard I left marks in the wood. My stomach twisted into something cold and metallic. My head buzzed like I was underwater. I stood there, my hands still smelling like thyme and turkey fat, reading how my wife had been lying, scheming, betraying me with some loser who probably thought medium rare was a movie rating. It wasn't just cheating. It was cruelty. Calculated, deliberate cruelty. She wanted me humiliated, made small, like the whole dinner was a setup, a performance to push me over the edge while she secretly planned to disappear into the arms of a guy who called her babe with a vomit emoji. And suddenly everything made sense. Why she stopped cooking. Why she worked late 3 times a week. Why she started wearing makeup to walk the dog. The worst part? I hadn't just been replaced. I'd been laughed at while it happened. I stood there frozen until the iPad buzzed again. Another message. This time from Lauren. Hope your husband doesn't cry into the cranberry sauce again this year. I still remember last Thanksgiving face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy. I realized then they all knew. And that's when something in me shifted. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't even going to confront her. Not yet. Because Rachel had just declared war. And I don't lose wars. I didn't say a word that day. Not when she passed by me in the hallway like I was part of the wallpaper. Not when she asked, without looking up from her phone, if I could please clean the wine glasses because she was too tired from entertaining. I just nodded, like the obedient fool she thought I was. I didn't sleep that night. My eyes stared at the ceiling while my mind played every message I read on loop. The smirks. The snide remarks. Her sister's comment. Rachel's laugh. The way everyone treated me like a background prop in my own life. I kept seeing that line. I'll fake apologize and sneak out after. Like I was a child to be tricked. A burden. She didn't even bother to delete the messages. That's how confident she was. How certain I'd never check. How little she thought of me. Saturday came. She wore the red dress. The one she hadn't worn in over a year. The one I bought for our anniversary and she once told me didn't fit right. Now she wore it like a uniform. Her makeup was perfect, and she sprayed perfume I hadn't smelled on her in months. Not even a glance toward me as she walked by the living room, her heels tapping against the hardwood with the rhythm of betrayal. Heading out with the girls, she said, grabbing her keys. I didn't respond. She turned, finally noticing I was watching her. What? She asked, cocking her head. I smiled, just barely. Nothing. Have fun. That look in her eyes, confused, almost worried for a second, was the only satisfaction I got that day. She left at 6:37 p.m. At 6:41, I opened the hidden app on my phone connected to the GPS I had placed in her car weeks ago when I first started suspecting something was off. I watched the little dot move straight across town, not to the bar she claimed, but to an apartment complex near the river. Unit 3B. Tyler's place. I didn't rush. I didn't rage. I just watched. At 8:12, a second device I had placed, this one inside the glove compartment, with audio picked up muffled sounds. Moaning. Laughter. Her voice. She was loud. She wanted to be heard. I turned it off. I didn't need to hear any more. Instead, I got up, packed a bag, and walked to the closet. I pulled down the lockbox, opened it, and took out the file I had kept sealed for over 6 months. Copies of our shared accounts, legal documentation, passwords, a USB with all our security footage from the last 3 months. And one thing she never thought I'd have proof of her forging my signature on a loan she took out without my knowledge. I sat at the dining table, the same one they had laughed at me around, and began building my war map. By the time she returned at 1:38 a.m., giggling quietly and tiptoeing like a teenager sneaking in after curfew, I was sitting in the dark. She froze in the hallway when she saw the faint blue glow of my laptop. Oh, you're still up? I looked up at her. Couldn't sleep. She glanced at the bag by the door. What's that? Just getting ready. For what? She asked, her tone shifting. I closed the laptop. You'll find out soon. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and walked upstairs without another word. She thought it was over, that she had won, that I was just sulking again, being overly dramatic, like she always said. But this time, I wasn't broken. This time, I was sharpening every piece of the shattered glass. And when it cut back, it would be deep. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Her name's Denise Harper, sharp as a blade and twice as cold. She'd handled two of my company's toughest acquisitions, and I trusted her with one thing, to do damage cleanly. I told her everything. Not just about the affair, but about the forged signature, the unauthorized withdrawals from our joint account, the credit card charges to hotels she never stayed at with me. She didn't flinch. Just asked for the dates, documents, and access. Then she said, "Let me guess, she doesn't know what's coming?" Not even close. For the next 3 days, I played the perfect husband. I made her coffee, picked up groceries, even offered to drop off dry cleaning. She softened. Probably thought I'd gotten over it, that I'd accepted my place in the background again. She even left her phone lying around, unlocked, sloppy, careless, or maybe just cocky. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to anymore. I had enough. Thursday night, her parents came over. I cooked. Just a small dinner, nothing like Thanksgiving. Chicken parmesan, garlic bread. Rachel smiled at me like she thought we were good again. Her mom gushed, "So happy to see you two working things out." I smiled back. "It's been enlightening." Rachel laughed. "See? I told you he just needed time." She touched my arm. I wanted to vomit. That night, I slept in our bed again for the first time in a while. She curled up next to me, whispered something about how we should plan a vacation. I nodded. She fell asleep. I didn't. The next morning, I left the house early. I met with Denise and handed her one last thing, security footage from the night Rachel brought Tyler over when she claimed to be at yoga. Tyler had come in through the back door. She had him memorize the alarm code. They didn't even bother hiding in the guest room. My bedroom. My bed. Denise grimaced. "That'll do it." Friday evening, I waited until Rachel got out of the shower. She came into the bedroom, towel wrapped around her, humming some stupid pop song. She didn't even notice the envelope sitting on the dresser until she reached for her phone. "What's this?" she asked. "Your notice." She laughed, pulling the towel tighter. "What?" I didn't respond. She opened the envelope. Started reading. Slowly. At first confused, then pale. "What the hell is this?" Her voice trembled. "Divorce. Fraud. Misuse of marital funds. Proof of infidelity." "Oh, and that cabin in Tahoe?" "Yours. But the mortgage is still unpaid. I transferred it to your name." "You're welcome. You can't do this." Her voice cracked now. "Oh, I already did." She took a step forward. "Wait, can we talk about this?" "Talk?" I laughed. "Now you want to talk?" "Look, whatever you think you know." "I know everything, Rachel. I know about Tyler. About the money. About the forged documents. I know your sister mocked me with you. I know you've been lying to me for months." She stared at me, eyes glassy, mouth open. "You're going to make a fool of me in front of everyone?" I stepped closer. "No, you already did that. I'm just returning the favor, legally." She tried to grab my hand. I pulled away. "You don't mean this. I've never meant anything more in my life." The best part? She thought she had control. She always did. The laughs behind my back. The sneaking out. The games. But she forgot one thing. I wasn't the man she could manipulate anymore. And this? This was only the beginning. She didn't cry that night. She screamed. She threw things, her phone, a lamp, even one of my cufflinks she found in the drawer. Called me pathetic. Said I was ruining her life. Accused me of overreacting, of being emotionally unstable. She went from denial to rage to guilt-tripping in a matter of minutes. I just stood there, silent, watching her unravel. Every word out of her mouth just confirmed what I already knew. She wasn't sorry. She was just sorry she got caught. Then came the last card in her broken deck. "You think you're going to end this marriage like this?" she hissed. "I'll make sure you pay for this. I'll tell everyone what a miserable, insecure freak you are. That you stalked me, bugged my car. That you're dangerous." I nodded once. "Go ahead. Just remember, every claim you make opens you up to the evidence I've already documented. Let's see how that works out for you in court." Her face dropped. The color drained right out of it. "You wouldn't. Try me." That night, she slept in the guest room. Or tried to. I could hear her pacing until nearly 4 a.m. me. I slept like a man who just escaped a burning building. In the morning, she was gone. No note. No goodbye. Just an empty closet on her side, a half-empty bottle of perfume knocked over on the bathroom counter, and silence. But I wasn't relieved. Not yet. Because I knew Rachel. She never left without a backup plan. This wasn't surrender, it was regrouping. Sure enough, by Monday, word had spread. Her friends started texting me. Her sister posted some cryptic story on Instagram, "Some men can't handle a real woman." I laughed when I saw it. She thought she was controlling the narrative. But Denise was already 3 steps ahead. We'd frozen the joint accounts, flagged the credit cards. The moment she tried using our shared money to fund whatever fantasy escape she had in mind, it would trigger alerts. Then came the phone call from Tyler. That shocked me. He sounded nervous, almost scared. "I didn't know, man," he said, voice trembling. "She told me you guys were already separated. I didn't mean to get involved." "You didn't mean to crawl into my bed?" There was silence. I just wanted you to know. She told me she was going to screw you over. She was bragging about it. Said you'd fold under pressure. Said she'd take everything. I didn't say a word. I'm out, man. I blocked her. Changed my locks. I think she's dangerous." Yeah, I could have told him that. But hearing the fear in his voice? That was new. Rachel wasn't just manipulative. She was venomous. And the poison had finally reached someone else's veins. That week, I moved forward with everything. Changed all the locks. Had the alarm company come out and reset the codes. Replaced the garage opener. Got the security cameras synced to my private server. Every piece of my life she once walked through so casually now became inaccessible to her. And then I sent out the holiday cancellation emails, every reservation we ever made, every invite that included Mark and Rachel. I wrote simple responses. "Plans have changed. Please remove Rachel from the list." Her mother called the next day. "What is going on?" "Rachel says you're trying to ruin her." I took a deep breath. "Did she tell you about the affair?" A pause. "She said you're paranoid." "Did she mention the forged loan?" Another pause. "You're making a mistake, Mark." "No. I made one. 10 years ago. I just finally fixed it." She hung up. That was the last time anyone from her side reached out. And finally, the silence wasn't filled with dread anymore. It felt like freedom. About a week after she vanished from the house, a letter showed up. Not an email. Not a message. An actual handwritten letter folded once, tucked in a pink envelope with no return address. I opened it like someone defusing a bomb. It wasn't an apology. It was a performance. "Mark, I just needed time to think. Things escalated so quickly. I don't know how we got here, but I know that deep down, you still love me. You have to. What we had, it meant something. I know you're angry, and I know I made mistakes, but we both did. I'm willing to work through this, if you are. You were always the calm one, the patient one. Please don't let the noise from outsiders cloud what we built." She ended it with, "I'll be waiting. Don't make me regret loving you." No signature. Just a lipstick stain on the fold. I read it once. Then again. Then I burned it. And it felt better than I ever expected. Because she didn't write that letter for me. She wrote it to control the narrative. To be able to say, "I tried." So if anyone asked, she could paint me as the cold, unforgiving husband. The one who just couldn't let go of the past. But I knew the truth, and more importantly, so did my lawyer, and my bank, and my now updated financial planner. She wasn't coming back into my house, my finances, or my life. Not again. And yet, the emotional landmines were still everywhere. Every time I opened a drawer and found one of her earrings. Every song that randomly played in the car. Every friend who still hadn't picked a side. I'd stare at the kitchen table and remember how she once sat there in that worn UCLA hoodie, hair a mess, drinking coffee at 6 a.m. like she owned the quiet. Back then, I loved her even in those sleepy, unremarkable moments. And it's terrifying how quickly that love can rot when it's doused in lies. But pain makes you observant. I started noticing things I never allowed myself to see before. Like how her compliments always came with conditions. How every fight ended with her playing victim. How she used silence as a punishment and affection as a currency. And the worst part? How long I tolerated it. Made excuses. Took the blame. I started going to the gym again. Not to improve or impress anyone. Just to feel control again. To feel sweat and breath and soreness that meant something. I started sleeping through the night, too, for the first time in years. No more staying up late wondering why she wasn't home. No more listening for footsteps that never came. One day, I stood in front of the mirror, fully dressed for work, and I said out loud, "You're not broken." And I wasn't. I was bruised. I was burned. But I wasn't broken. And that small truth was the beginning of something bigger. By the end of that month, the divorce papers were processed. The accounts were split. Denise had done her job like a surgeon, clean, precise, no loose ends. Rachel never contested anything. She knew she'd lose. She didn't even show up to the final mediation. She sent a lawyer with a list of requests. Almost all were denied. And then it was done. Just like that. 10 years reduced to signatures and silence. But for the first time in a long time, silence didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like peace. A few weeks after the divorce was finalized, I started getting messages. Not from Rachel. No, she knew better. These were from mutual acquaintances. People who'd been at our wedding. People who sat at my Thanksgiving table. People who stayed silent while her sister mocked me in front of a room full of guests. Now they wanted to check in. Now they wanted to say things like, "I always thought something was off between you two," or "She didn't deserve you, Mark." Cowards. Every single one of them had watched it happen in real time and stayed quiet. Not a single person had pulled me aside, asked if I was okay, or called her out when she humiliated me. But now that the dust had settled and Rachel was exposed for who she really was, they wanted to pretend like they'd been on my side all along. I didn't respond to most of them. There was nothing to say. But one message stood out. It was from an old friend, Jake, someone I hadn't seen in years, who moved to Colorado after college. He sent a simple line. Saw the news. I remember how she used to talk to you. You good. That one hit different. Because he had seen it. Way before I did. He'd once told me, years ago at a barbecue, "Man, I don't know what it is, but when Rachel talks to you sometimes, it's like she's talking to a waiter who forgot her order." I laughed it off back then. I messaged him back this time. Took me too long, but I'm finally good. He replied, better late than never. He was right. And it wasn't just that the chaos was over. It was the realization that I'd been living in a slow burn disaster for years. Rachel hadn't just cheated on me physically, she'd chipped away at me every day with condescension, manipulation, and silence. She'd turned our marriage into a spotlight where she was the star, and I was just the guy managing the lights backstage. But not anymore. Now, I did things alone. By choice. I cooked for myself and enjoyed it. I traveled alone for the first time in over a decade, took a weekend trip to Seattle, wandered Pike Place, ate seafood with strangers, and didn't have to check in with anyone. No guilt. No passive-aggressive texts asking where I was. No tracking apps on my phone. Just freedom. One night, I came home late from a meeting, tired but content. I poured a drink, sat on the couch, and looked around my house. My house. The silence wasn't oppressive anymore. It was peaceful. Earned. I went upstairs, took a shower, and when I stepped out, I saw the smallest thing that used to annoy me, a towel on the floor, her old habit. Only it wasn't hers. It was mine this time. And I smiled. Because it didn't matter. It wasn't a symptom of neglect. It wasn't an argument waiting to happen. It was just a towel. It felt good to know that the messes in my life were finally mine, and only mine, to clean. Spring came faster than I expected. Funny how time moves when you're no longer waiting for apologies that never come. The trees outside bloomed, the air warmed up, and I started opening the windows again. Letting the breeze in. Letting the past out. I didn't realize how long I'd been holding my breath in that house. One afternoon, I was organizing the garage, something Rachel always called a waste of time, and I found a box labeled Mark's junk. It wasn't even mine. It was stuff she had no use for. My old baseball glove, a few college notebooks, some tools I never got to use because she hated clutter. And there, at the bottom, was a photo of us. Our first vacation. Cabo. I was tanned and grinning. She was wearing sunglasses and that fake smile she used for pictures. I stared at it for a while, then tossed it in the bin without flinching. The moment wasn't sad. It was cleansing. That night, I cooked steak and potatoes, poured a glass of red, and played one of the old jazz vinyls I had kept boxed up for years because Rachel said it gave her headaches. I leaned back in the chair, letting the music drift through the space, and thought, this is what peace sounds like. There's something sacred in doing nothing and not being afraid of it. The house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt mine. The echoes weren't of arguments or manipulation or sarcastic laughter. Just jazz. Just silence. Just the occasional creak of floorboards under my feet. And then, as life does, it threw a twist. A few weeks later, I was at the grocery store. I had headphones in, barely paying attention until I heard my name. Mark. I turned. It was Lauren, the sister, standing there in leggings and a windbreaker, no makeup, holding a basket of overpriced organic nonsense. Her eyes flicked up and down, probably noticing the way I'd changed. I dropped weight, grown a bit of a beard, looked alive again. I didn't expect to see you here, she said. I pulled out one headphone. Yeah, I live around here. She forced a laugh. Right. Of course. There was a pause. That awkward beat where she was probably debating if she should pretend to be warm or just walk away. She chose wrong. I just wanted to say, you know. I didn't mean anything by that comment at Thanksgiving. I tilted my head. You said my food tasted like garbage in front of 15 people. It was a joke, she shrugged. And Rachel, well, she was going through a lot. We all were. We all were. I'm not sure what you want me to say, Lauren. She exhaled through her nose. Nothing. Just maybe you could have handled it more privately. You kind of blew everything up. I stared at her. And I smiled. That's the thing. Sometimes you have to blow things up to see who's standing in the rubble. She blinked. I put my headphones back in, turned, and walked away. I didn't look back. Because that was the moment I knew. I didn't just survive the fire. I came out tempered, sharper, stronger. And I'd never let someone like Rachel or her sister stand in my kitchen and laugh at me again. Summer rolled in slow and golden, like a final act that didn't need fanfare, just warmth and quiet closure. I wasn't searching for anything anymore. Not forgiveness, not revenge, not understanding. The truth had already done its work. It carved everything down to the bone and left only what mattered. Me. I'd stopped checking Rachel's socials. Stopped wondering who she was with or what story she was spinning. The woman I once knew, the one I married, trusted, believed in, was gone long before I ever saw the texts. The real her had been hiding behind borrowed smiles, manufactured intimacy, and layers of self-interest. She didn't leave me. She left the version of me that no longer bowed to her ego. And for that, I was grateful. A few weeks later, I stood on the deck behind the house, my house now, watching the sun set behind the trees. A slow-burning orange sky fading into bruised purple. I held a cold beer in one hand, phone in the other, and did something I hadn't done in a long time. I deleted every saved photo of us. Every trip. Every anniversary. Every fake smile. They were just pixels now, empty snapshots of a performance I no longer auditioned for. And when I was done, I breathed. Not a dramatic gasp, not some cinematic sigh, just a calm, honest breath. I was okay. Really okay. For the first time in years, I wasn't weighed down by someone else's chaos. No one was walking through the door late with weak excuses. No one was feeding off my kindness and calling it control. No more emotional chess matches disguised as marriage. Just air. Just silence. Just peace. If anyone ever asked me what I learned from it all, I'd say this. If someone shows you disrespect and expects gratitude, walk away. If someone laughs at your effort, let them lose access to your energy. And if someone betrays you and expects forgiveness without transformation, give them distance instead of mercy. There's power in stillness. Power in not chasing. Power in you being enough, even when someone else tried to make you feel disposable. She played her games. And I walked off the board. Free. Whole. And finally, me. I was standing in the hallway, towel around my waist, hair still dripping from the shower, when I heard it. That one sentence, slammed through my chest harder than any punch I've ever taken in my life. He's stronger, earns more money, you need a real man you can rely on. And he's more gifted than his little brother. It was my mother's voice. Calm. Matter of fact. Sharp like a dagger. And she wasn't on the phone. She was in my living room, talking to my fiancée, to Elena. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I stood frozen behind the wall, hearing the woman who raised me basically hand me over like a clearance item at a garage sale. And Elena? She wasn't protesting. She was giggling. You really think he'd go for me? I mean, Mason's cute, but your older son is mature. She dragged that word like she was tasting every letter. I felt like vomiting. My older brother Kyle. The golden boy. The Wall Street success story. 6'2", fake humility, designer suits, gym-built arms. The same Kyle who didn't even bother showing up to our engagement party. Now my future wife was being pitched to him like she was some trophy up for grabs. I didn't wait for more. I turned back to the bedroom, hands shaking, my heart in my throat. I packed fast, one duffel bag. Just the basics. Passport, cash, my old leather jacket. I grabbed my phone and texted Cruz and Jake, two of my old biker crew from college. Need to disappear. Don't ask. Just meet me at the garage in 20. My hands were steady by then. Strangely calm. I left the engagement ring on the dresser, right next to the champagne bottle we were supposed to open tonight. I didn't say a word. I walked out, closed the door, and walked away from my entire life. The next morning, I woke up in a backwoods cabin 3 states over. No reception. No people. Just pine trees, frost, and the hum of my motorcycle cooling off in the shed. I connected to Wi-Fi at a gas station 3 hours later. 127 missed calls. Dozens of messages. My mother. My father. Elena. Even Kyle. The one that broke me wasn't even from Elena. It was from my mom. You're not our son anymore. You ruined their lives. I sat there, phone buzzing like a mad hornet in my hand, trying to understand. I ruined their lives? Was I supposed to stand there and clap while my own fiancé was being auctioned off to my brother by my own mother? Was I supposed to compete? That was the moment something snapped. The sadness hadn't come yet. Not the tears. Not even the anger. Just a cold, empty feeling in my gut. Like the world had pulled the plug on everything I thought was real. And I knew this wasn't just betrayal. It was planned. It was personal. And it wasn't over. I looked at the messages again. Elena had sent a voice note. I didn't want to hear it, but I pressed play anyway. Mason, you're being ridiculous. You're not even trying to fix this. Your mom just wanted what's best for us. She said if I got closer to Kyle, you'd feel threatened and step up. That's all it was. It didn't mean anything. That was her voice. Calm. Soft. Like she was the victim. Like she hadn't already crossed every line. Like she didn't just tell my brothers, see, never mind. And in that moment, my decision crystallized. I wasn't going back. Not today. Not ever. But I wasn't done either. They thought I'd vanish quietly. They thought the weaker little brother would just fade out and make space for the better man. They had no idea who they just lit a fire under. I didn't just vanish into the night without a plan. After leaving the cabin, I rode north, my mind spinning like the engine beneath me. 3 hours later, I was standing in front of an old contact from my past life, Liam, an IT guy with a skill for uncovering things people don't want found. The kind of guy who could hack into anything with a piece of gum and a paperclip. He owed me a favor from years back when I stopped his sister's stalker from breaking into her apartment. He took one look at my face and didn't ask questions. I need everything, I told him. Her phone, emails, socials. If there's anything to find, I want it yesterday. He nodded. Give me 6 hours. While Liam worked, I sat in a dim diner nursing cold coffee, watching snow collect outside. My fingers itched to check my phone, to see if Elena had written again. But I already knew what she'd say. More lies. More manipulation. I stared at the screen like it might catch fire. By the time Liam returned, he didn't even bother sitting down. He slid a tablet across the table. You sure you want to see this? I didn't answer. I pressed play. There was a video, taken inside a hotel room. Elena, wearing the same blue dress she wore 2 weeks ago on the night she told me she was going to her cousin's engagement party. Kyle was already there, shirtless, grinning. Elena was laughing, tossing her heels aside like it was the most casual thing in the world. And then she said something that burned into my skull like a scar. He'll never know. He's too busy playing mechanic with those losers from college. That was it. No hesitation. No guilt. Like I was some joke they'd already forgotten. The video kept playing. I stopped it. My hand was shaking. Not from sadness, but from the surge of cold, focused rage building in my chest. Liam was quiet. He didn't have to say anything. I found more. Photos. Texts. Voice messages. There were dozens of calls between Elena and my mother in the last month. Plans. Warnings. Even encouragement. At one point, my mom had sent Elena an article titled, "Why Marrying the Better Brother is Best for Your Kids." They were laughing about it in the comments under the link. I felt sick. This wasn't just a moment of weakness. It was a long, drawn-out betrayal, and it was orchestrated like a business deal. It wasn't just Elena and Kyle. It was my own mother, helping them destroy me. For what? Status? Control? Because Kyle was more successful? Suddenly, everything made sense. The weird tension at family dinners. The way my mom kept comparing me to Kyle in subtle ways. Maybe you should wear a suit like your brother. Maybe you should think about switching careers. Don't you want to give Elena the kind of life she deserves? God, I was blind. I paid Liam. I didn't even flinch at the price. Then I went back to my cabin, threw my phone in the fire, and sat in the silence. All those memories, our engagement photos, the first time Elena met my mom, the way she'd whisper, "I'm yours forever," after we made love, all of it felt rotten now. Tainted. It wasn't real. I thought I'd cry. I didn't. I thought I'd scream. I couldn't. All I did was stare at the wall as my heart cracked into 1,000 pieces. But something else was forming behind the pain. Something sharp. Something steady. Not revenge. Not yet. Just a cold resolve. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to expose them on social media like some heartbroken fool. No. I'd make them feel what I felt without even touching them. They wanted to be gone. Now they'd get exactly that. But on my terms. 3 weeks later, I walked back into my city like a ghost. I didn't call anyone. I didn't post anything. I just showed up quiet, calm, dressed in black from head to toe, with nothing but my duffel bag slung over my shoulder and a fire behind my eyes that hadn't died since the day I left. My first stop wasn't Elena. It was Mom. She lived in that same 2-story colonial house on Willow Creek Lane. The lawn was still perfect, the bushes trimmed into clean circles, like nothing had changed. But something had. Me. I rang the bell. It was Dad who opened the door, eyes wide like he was seeing a ghost. "Mason," he whispered. I nodded. "Where is she?" He hesitated, then stepped aside without a word. I walked in like I owned the place, heart pounding, mouth dry, but my steps steady. The air inside smelled like vanilla candles and denial. Mom was in the kitchen, mid-pour with a glass of red wine, wearing her favorite pearl earrings like it was just another Sunday. She looked up and froze. "Oh my God," she said, blinking. "You're alive." I tilted my head. Disappointed. She had the nerve to scoff. "Don't be dramatic." I dropped the flash drive on the counter. "What's that?" I smiled. "Cold. That's you. Coaching my fiancé to screw my brother." Her face twitched, just for a second, then she set the wine glass down. "That was a misunderstanding." "You sure?" "Because the video I saw didn't look very misunderstood. It looked pretty intentional." She straightened. "Mason, I only wanted what was best for you. Elena needed a man who could take care of her. Kyle, he's more stable. You're always running around with your motorcycles and tools. That's no future for a woman like her." "Right?" I said. "So instead of talking to me, you pimped her out to your favorite son?" She flinched. "Don't be crude. Don't be a traitor." For a moment, we just stood there. Mother and son. A line between us that could never be uncrossed. "I came here to say something," I continued. "You're dead to me." She opened her mouth to speak, but I was already gone. Next stop, Elena. I waited until I knew Kyle wouldn't be home. My brother had recently rented a luxury loft downtown, the kind with those massive windows and fake bookshelves full of untouched leather-bound novels. I buzzed up. She answered. Her voice caught when she realized it was me. "Mason." "Yeah," I said. "Buzz me in." She hesitated, then did it. That alone told me she had something to hide. She opened the door looking nervous. She wore silk shorts and a tank top like she was trying to seem casual. Her hair was damp, probably from a long, hot shower after another gifted session with Kyle. "You're alive," she said softly. "No thanks to you." She shifted uncomfortably, crossing her arms. "You disappeared. Everyone thought something happened to you." I stepped in and shut the door behind me. Something did. Silence. I reached into my bag and pulled out the flash drive. "You really thought I'd never find out? Or were you hoping I'd just fade away?" She started, then stopped. "It wasn't what you think." "Really?" "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you banged my brother in a hotel room while my mom gave you tips." Her eyes flickered with guilt, then defiance. "She manipulated me." "Oh, come on," I laughed bitterly. "You were all in. Don't pretend you were a victim. You chose him. You chose the money, the image, the lifestyle." She raised her chin. "You weren't enough." There it was. No sugarcoating. No apology. Just pure venom. "Then why didn't you just leave me?" "Because you were easy," she snapped. "Safe. You adored me. You would have done anything for me. I liked being worshipped." I stared at her. At this stranger in my fiancé's skin. "Well," I said quietly, "I hope Kyle worships you the same way. Because you're both getting exactly what you deserve." I turned to leave. "You'll regret this," she called after me. "No one's gonna love you like I did." I stopped at the door, looked over my shoulder, and smiled. "I hope not." I didn't go back to the cabin. After leaving Elena's place, I rode until my knuckles turned white on the handlebars. The night air cut against my face, and I welcomed the sting. It was the only thing that felt real. Eventually, I stopped on the side of some empty road. No signs. No streetlights. Just darkness and silence. I sat on the bike for what felt like hours. The confrontation didn't bring relief. It didn't fix anything. It just tore the mask off everything I thought I knew. My mother, the woman who kissed my forehead every night as a child, had sold me out like I was a bad investment. My brother, the guy I'd taken the fall for in high school so he wouldn't get expelled, had stolen my fiancée with zero guilt. And Elena, the woman who once whispered, "I'm yours forever," in my ear, had used me like a stepping stone to climb into a better tax bracket. You always think you'll break down when something like this happens. But I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt hollow. Like they had scooped out everything inside me and left nothing but skin and bones to carry the weight. I checked into a roadside motel near a state line. The kind of place with flickering signs and vending machines that only take quarters. I tossed my bag on the floor and stared at the ceiling. It was cracked and stained with water damage, fit the mood perfectly. Sleep didn't come easy. When it did, the dreams were worse. Visions of Elena laughing while Kyle kissed her neck. Of my mother saying he was never strong enough. I woke up drenched in sweat, my chest aching like someone had kicked it in. I didn't leave the room the entire next day. I just lay there, thinking. Not about revenge. Not anymore. But about who the hell I was now. Because for the past year, my life had revolved around building a future with someone who wasn't even real. All the planning, the sacrifices, the damn Pinterest board she made for our wedding, it was all built on a lie. A show. A setup. I remembered the night we got engaged. I'd taken her to the cliffs where my dad used to take us fishing. I lit candles, had music playing on a Bluetooth speaker, even hired a friend to hide nearby and take photos. She cried when I pulled out the ring. I thought it was because she was overwhelmed. Now I knew. She was laughing inside. The whole thing was a game. I kept replaying her words in my mind. You weren't enough. The way she said it, like a final verdict. Like I was born broken, and she just couldn't pretend anymore. That sentence crawled inside me and nested in my ribs. I started questioning everything. Was I really not enough? I thought about the garage I ran, the community I built with my biker crew, the nights I stayed up late fixing cars for single moms who couldn't afford repairs. I thought about the way I loved her completely, fiercely, stupidly. I would have taken a bullet for her. I almost took one for my damn brother once. And still, it wasn't enough. Or maybe it was. Just not for them. That realization was the first brick in rebuilding my spine. I wasn't broken. I was betrayed. There's a difference. And once you realize that, once you stop blaming yourself, you start breathing again. That night, I stood in front of the motel mirror and looked at myself. Really looked. My face was rougher. My eyes were darker. But something about that reflection finally felt real. Like I was meeting the man underneath the wreckage. I whispered to myself, they didn't kill me. They just woke me up. And that changed everything. 3 days later, I walked into the garage I used to run with my crew. It smelled the same: oil, grease, a little burnt rubber, and cheap coffee, but something in me had changed. I wasn't the same guy who used to whistle along to the radio and offer free tune-ups to broke college kids. Cruz was under a Mustang, cursing like always. Jake was elbow-deep in a motorcycle engine. They both froze when they saw me. Mason. Jake blinked like he'd seen a ghost. Cruz rolled out from under the car, wiping his hands on a rag. Damn. We thought you were dead. I gave a half-smile. Not dead. Just done being a fool. They didn't ask much. That's the thing about real friends. They know when to shut up and when to hand you a beer. We spent that night drinking on the rooftop of Cruz's apartment, watching the city lights blur under a sky that didn't care about heartbreak. That's where I made the decision. I wasn't going back to being the version of me that bent over backwards to earn love. That guy's dead, buried under a mountain of lies and betrayal. But I wasn't going to disappear either. No, I'd build something better, bigger, stronger. I'd make a life so good, so unshakably mine, that the people who doubted me would have no choice but to choke on their regret. I started with the garage. I turned it into something more than just a place to fix cars. I partnered with a few local veterans who'd been struggling to find work. Set up a mentorship program for young guys trying to stay off the streets. We painted the walls, rebranded the name, Iron Blood Customs, and opened the doors to something that felt like a brotherhood. Word spread fast. 3 weeks in, I was booked for months. People wanted more than service. They wanted loyalty, grit, realness. Things my brother's polished life never offered. I didn't check on Elena. Didn't follow Kyle. Didn't answer my mother's messages, though they started turning from rage to guilt pretty fast. The last one said, I made mistakes, but I'm still your mother. We all wanted what was best for you. No, they didn't. They wanted what was best for them. And that's the part I'd never forget. I was done playing the role of the quiet, dependable little brother. Done loving people who saw me as disposable. Done keeping the peace while everyone else danced on my dignity. I started living like a man who had nothing left to lose and everything to gain. And you know what happened? I found freedom. I'd wake up at sunrise, drink my black coffee, turn on the lights in the shop, and feel like I finally owned my own damn story. No more masks. No more pretending. Just hard work, loud engines, and quiet satisfaction. Every once in a while, someone would mention Kyle or Elena. She's been showing up on social media with him. Doesn't look too happy. He crashed that new Tesla you helped him pick out. Idiot can't drive. I heard your mom isn't invited to their parties anymore. I'd nod, maybe smirk, but I wouldn't say a word. Because I didn't need to. Their punishment was living the life they built together. A pretty little house built on ashes. And me? I was finally building something real. It was late. The shop was closed. I just finished wiping down the last set of tools and was heading to the back when I noticed my phone vibrating on the workbench. Blocked number. Normally I'd ignore it, but something in my gut told me to answer. I tapped the screen and held it to my ear. Hello. There was a pause. Then her voice. Mason. I froze. My stomach knotted like a chain yanked tight. It was Elena. I didn't say anything. She kept talking. Please don't hang up. Just let me say something. Please. My fingers hovered over the red button. Every cell in my body screamed to cut her off, let the silence answer her, let her drown in everything she'd done. But I didn't. I have 1 minute, I said coldly. Use it. Her breath caught. I made a mistake. I laughed, bitter. No kidding. No, listen, she rushed. I know what I did. I know I destroyed you. And you have every right to hate me. But you need to know something. You think there's anything I need from you? I'm pregnant. Silence. Long suffocating. I stood there, rooted to the spot, heart hammering like a piston. The air around me thickened. What? I whispered. I'm pregnant, she said again, slower this time. And I don't know if it's yours. I nearly dropped the phone. My mind raced. Backwards. Forwards. Through time and every memory I tried to bury. The timeline blurred in my head. The hotel video. The night she was sick and didn't want me touching her. Everything twisted into a disgusting knot. You're calling me now to what? Guilt me? Drag me into your mess? No, she said, voice shaking. I'm not asking for anything. I just thought you deserved to know. I don't even want anything from you, I swear. Kyle, he's not who I thought he was. He's cold. Controlling. He doesn't even talk to me unless it's for appearances. I clenched my jaw. You chose him. I know. You chose him, Elena. And now you're calling me because you're scared. She started crying. Real tears this time. Not those rehearsed sobs she used to get her way. I can't undo what I did, she whispered. But I wake up every day wishing I could. Your brother, he's not who you are. He never was. I swallowed hard. I could feel the heat rising in my chest, mixing with something uglier than rage, pity. I'm not the man I was when you left, I said. And I'm not going to be your rescue plan now. I'm not asking you to be. I don't care whose baby it is. If you need help, you can get it. But don't ever think we're going back to whatever that was. You made your bed. Lie in it. There was a long silence. Then, softly, I just wanted you to know. I hung up, and then I stood there in the dark, staring at the floor, heart pounding like a war drum in my chest. I didn't know whether to scream, laugh, or punch a hole through the drywall. Pregnant. Maybe mine. Maybe not. And suddenly, I was right back where I swore I'd never be tangled in her mess again. But here's the thing. I didn't feel broken this time. I didn't feel helpless. I felt focused. There were still decisions to make, things to figure out, questions to answer. But one thing was certain, I wasn't the one drowning anymore. And if there was any part of this child that was mine, I'd handle it, like a man, on my terms. I didn't call her back. For 3 days, I let the silence sit, let it weigh on her, let her twist in her own guilt. And in that time, I made peace with something I didn't expect to. If the baby was mine, fine. But she didn't get to control that narrative anymore. I did. So I booked a meeting with a lawyer, Janet Myers, a sharp-tongued pit bull who specialized in family law and had a reputation for tearing apart anyone who tried to play games in court. I handed her everything: texts, emails, even the video. I made sure she understood exactly what Elena had done and what I was willing to do. I want a DNA test, I said. And if the baby's mine, I'll take responsibility. But I don't want her anywhere near me ever again. Janet leaned back in her chair. You're not the first guy to be betrayed, but you're one of the few who's not trying to win her back. That makes you smart and dangerous. I'm done playing nice. She smiled. Then let's draw blood. While the legal wheels started turning, I did something else I hadn't planned on. I reached out to my father. Not my mother. Never her. That bridge was ashes. But my dad, he was quiet, distant most of my life, but he never lied to me. He'd always been more observer than participant. I figured if anyone knew how deep Mom's involvement went, it'd be him. He agreed to meet at a park on the west side, near the river. When I showed up, he was already sitting on a bench, staring out at the water. You look different, he said when I approached. I am different. He nodded slowly. She told me about the call. About the baby. Of course she did. The drama queen couldn't help herself. I'm not here for her, I said. I just want to know why you didn't stop her. Why you let her do this to me. He exhaled through his nose. Your mother doesn't stop. She never did. Controlling things gives her purpose. And I gave up trying to fight that a long time ago. You just watched her ruin my life. I watched her try to shape it into what she thought was best. And I watched you survive it. That's more than your brother ever did. I froze. What does that mean? He turned toward me, eyes tired but sharp. Kyle's been her puppet since he could walk. She decided he'd be the success story, and he never argued. You were unpredictable. You had your own path. That scared her. So she sabotaged me. She tried. But look at you. Still standing. Stronger than I've ever seen you. I clenched my fists. I don't want her in my life. Not ever again. Then cut her out. You don't need permission. That night, I made it official. I sent her one text. You destroyed my trust. This isn't reparable. I won't forgive you. Don't contact me again. No love. No regret. Just the truth. The next morning, Janet called. We served Elena notice. She's furious. Said she won't take a test. Said the baby's yours and she doesn't need proof. I laughed. That's fine, I said. We'll get the test ordered through the court. If she refuses, that tells me everything I need to know. Exactly. You've got leverage now. I hung up, looked around my shop, and felt a strange peace wash over me. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was moving forward, setting the rules, owning the consequences, carving out a life they couldn't touch. Let them lie. Let them spiral. Let them sit in the houses they built out of betrayal and false smiles. I had something better. Freedom, direction, purpose. And I wasn't done yet. 6 months later, I stood at the edge of a desert highway, watching the sun sink behind the hills. The engine of my rebuilt '69 Charger hummed beneath me, fresh matte black paint, V8 growl, every bolt tightened by my own hands. It was a symbol now, a monument to everything they tried to take from me, and failed. A lot had changed. The DNA test came back negative. The child wasn't mine. Elena never showed up for the second hearing. Word got around that she and Kyle were falling apart quickly. He was seen leaving some rooftop party with another woman on his arm, while Elena cried in the backseat of an Uber. Honestly, I didn't care. Not in the way I used to. My mother sent a letter. Not a text, not a call. A letter, like she wanted to appear dignified about the filth she left behind. She wrote, I realize now how much I hurt you. I thought I was helping. I wanted to elevate you, not destroy you. I lost my son trying to mold him into something he never needed to be. If you never speak to me again, I understand. I read it once, folded it up, tossed it into the fire pit behind the shop. Some people don't get second chances. Some wounds don't close. And that's okay. I rebuilt my world without them. Iron Blood Customs expanded. We hired more vets, trained new mechanics, started hosting charity rides across the state. I was busy, fulfilled, focused. But most of all, I was free. Not just from them. From me, too. The me who begged to be loved. The me who thought being loyal meant letting people walk over you. The me who saw red flags and called them sunsets. He was dead. And I was glad. People ask me sometimes, don't you regret not fighting for her? And I always say the same thing. You don't fight for someone who was never in your corner. The truth is, loyalty means nothing when it's one-sided. You can love someone so much it hurts, but if they love convenience more than commitment, you'll always be just a stepping stone. I was her safe option. Kyle was her fantasy. Now she's got neither. And me? I've got peace. Real peace. The kind that doesn't come with conditions or fake apologies. The kind that comes when you stop chasing validation and start building your own damn kingdom. Some nights, I still think about it. Not with pain, more like watching an old scar in the mirror. A reminder of what I survived. A mark of where I've been. If you're reading this, if you've been there, standing in the wreckage of a love that betrayed you, listen to me. You're not broken. You were just lied to. There's a difference. It's not your fault they couldn't see your worth. It's not your fault they wanted shinier things. It's not your fault you loved real while they played pretend. But it is your responsibility to get up, to rebuild, to stop bleeding for people who'd never offer you a band-aid. Walk away. Cut them off. Let the silence teach them what your presence used to mean. And then, rise. Not to prove anything to them, but to prove it to yourself. That you're more than what they left behind. That your story doesn't end in their betrayal. That you are your own damn savior. So ride on. And never look back. Mason, I swear, I've seen some disrespect in my life, but nothing ever came close to what my wife pulled at our anniversary dinner. 10 years. 10 damn years of my life. And she walked in like she was the queen of some twisted carnival, parading her dirty secrets right into my face like it was some kind of joke. Let me take you there. We were at Vincent's, the upscale Italian place downtown. Candlelight. White tablecloths. I'd reserved the private balcony. Paid a fortune because I still believed in us. Still believed she was the woman I'd married. And then the door opened. She walked in wearing a crimson dress that looked like it belonged in someone else's life. Her hair done up, red lipstick like war paint. And on either side of her, Kyle, her ex-husband, and Derek, the guy I knew was more than just a friend from college. They strutted in like they were part of some damn bachelor reality show, all smirks and swagger. Derek even winked at me. Winked. I felt my jaw tighten, felt the heat crawl up the back of my neck. What the hell is this? I asked, barely keeping my voice level. She smiled like I was the stupid one for asking. It's just a dinner, she said, sliding into the seat across from me, like she hadn't just sucker punched my soul. Kyle's my first love, and Derek's my best friend. We needed to catch up, like we were all on the same twisted wavelength. Like this wasn't our anniversary dinner. Like she hadn't just invited ghosts of her past to haunt the most intimate moment of our marriage. Her eyes didn't even flinch. You're overreacting, she said, sipping her wine like she was some kind of innocent. You always take things so personally. Kyle chuckled. Derek laughed louder. I looked around the table, expecting someone, anyone, to call out how messed up this was. But then her friends, Melissa and Tina, both nodded like she was some hero for being honest and living her truth. I felt something break inside me right there. I stood up, heart pounding, my knuckles wide around my phone. She looked up with that same smug grin. What? You're leaving already? Come on, don't be dramatic. This night isn't just about you. That's when I knew something she didn't. I pulled out my phone, smiled calmly, and said, You're right. It's not just about me anymore. She rolled her eyes. God, you're so sensitive. Melissa, I interrupted, turning to her friend. You might want to call an Uber. I canceled the credit card tied to the dinner tab about 20 minutes ago. This restaurant doesn't accept girl power as payment. And I kept going. I also canceled the utilities, the housekeeper, the car insurance, everything under my name, including the lease. That place you've been living in like it's your personal kingdom? It'll be locked by morning. The smiles vanished. Wait, she said, setting down her glass. What are you talking about? I booked a one-way flight to Colorado. 48 minutes ago. I already spoke to a lawyer. They turned pale. All of them. Melissa dropped her fork. Tina's mouth hung open. Derek's smug look melted off his face. And Kyle? Well, Kyle finally shut the hell up. I looked straight into her eyes and said, This is your catch-up? Well, congratulations. You're caught. I didn't yell. Didn't throw a fit. I just grabbed my coat, my keys, and walked out. As I stepped into the cold night, I swear I could feel the ghost of the man I was disappearing behind me. That was the beginning. Not the beginning of the end, but the beginning of me finding out just how deep her betrayal really went. And trust me, it goes deeper. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in a motel room across town, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above me, wondering how I let it all rot for so long without noticing the smell. But the truth? The truth was, I had noticed. The signs were there. They'd been scratching at the back of my mind for months. I just didn't want to believe them. Her late nights with the girls that always ended in silence. The cold shoulder in bed. The way she flinched when I reached for her, as if my touch had become an obligation. And the phone, God, that damn phone. She guarded it like it held nuclear codes. Always face down. Always on silent. The pieces began snapping together like some cruel puzzle. I remembered a Sunday morning 2 weeks ago. I was half asleep on the couch, and her phone buzzed across the room. I glanced at it out of instinct. Just a name, D, with a red heart emoji. That was it. She snatched it up like a hawk diving on prey and snapped. It's just Derek. He's going through a breakup. Her voice was too high, too defensive. I knew better, but I smiled, nodded, and said, okay, because that's what I did. I trusted her. The next morning after the dinner, I went back to the house. Not for her. Not for reconciliation. I wanted answers. I needed to see it all for myself. I walked in and everything felt off, like the place was mocking me. Her perfume still lingered in the air, and her heels, those same red ones she wore last night, sat by the front door like nothing happened. I didn't even call out her name. I went straight for her laptop. She'd always been sloppy with tech. Never thought I'd look. I guessed her password on the second try. Our wedding date. And there it was. Photos. Messages. Emails. Not just with Derek. With Kyle too. With others. One thread labeled us, love, made my stomach twist. They talked about me like I was a clueless roommate. She laughed at how needy I was. Said I was soft. Called me her security blanket. Derek replied, can't believe he still thinks you love him, LOL. Then came the videos. I forced myself to watch one. I didn't recognize the hotel room, but I recognized her voice. Her laugh. Her body language. It was intimate in a way she hadn't been with me in years. And the way she moved, like she belonged to him. Not me. Never me. I slammed the laptop shut and sat on the floor, shaking. That was when the rage came. Not the kind that explodes. The quiet kind. The kind that settles deep in your gut and tells you, you've been played. I took photos, screen recordings, sent them all to my lawyer. Then I packed a single bag. Passport, IDs, a burner phone. I took the safe deposit box key from my drawer. She never knew about that box, my emergency fund, the one I kept just in case. Just in case turned out to be now. Before I left, I took one last walk through the house. The dining room table still had the wine stains from the party she threw last month, where she toasted to forever in front of our friends. I remembered how she looked at me then, with that polished fake smile. That actress smile. She was good. Damn good. But now I was done playing the idiot. I left the keys on the counter. Took my wedding ring off. Dropped it into her favorite mug. The one that said Boss Babe. When I stepped outside, I didn't feel free. I felt hollow. Like I'd been gutted. But I also felt awake. I got into the rental car. Drove until my phone lost signal. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I let myself cry. Not for her. Not even for what we used to be. I cried for the man who thought loyalty still meant something. For the fool who thought love couldn't be faked. And in that broken place, something new started to grow. It had been 5 days since I vanished from her world. 5 days without a single call, text, or message from her. That told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't looking. She wasn't sorry. She was relieved. So I stopped checking. I rented a cabin in the middle of nowhere. Forest all around me. Spotty cell signal, no distractions. Just me, my thoughts, and a pile of documents my lawyer sent over. Divorce papers, asset reports, financial breakdowns. All of it laid bare what I already suspected. She'd been preparing to leave me, just not yet. She was bleeding me dry first. Credit card statements showed purchases I never authorized. Jewelry, hotel rooms, even flights. One flight, booked for 2, to Aruba. Guess who was flying with her? Derek. She didn't even try to hide it. That's what got me. The boldness. The disrespect. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. She wasn't cheating out of loneliness or confusion. She enjoyed it. She thrived on watching me stay loyal while she treated me like a doormat. But I wasn't lying in the mud anymore. I was standing up. On the 6th day, she finally reached out. A short text. Where are you? We need to talk. That was it. No apology. No panic. No remorse. I didn't respond. Instead, I called her best friend Melissa. She didn't answer, but I left a voice message that said, clearly and calmly, tell Savannah she's free now. Completely. And I hope Derek has a good job, because her lifestyle just got very expensive. An hour later, I got a call from her. I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. Hi, she said, like nothing happened. I stayed silent. Look, I know you're mad, she continued. But can we stop acting like this is some big betrayal? You knew things were off. You weren't exciting anymore. I needed more. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. More, I said slowly. You brought 2 men to our anniversary dinner like it was a damn sitcom. She scoffed. It wasn't a crime. You're being overly dramatic. Kyle's still important to me. Derek understands me in ways you never did. What was I supposed to do? Pretend I was happy being married to someone who talks about taxes and home repairs. That stung. Not because it was true, but because it was so cheap. You lied. For months, I said. You didn't just cheat. You planned it. You enjoyed it. Don't act like I failed you. She was quiet. Then, with the fakest sweetness I've ever heard, she said, You're really gonna throw it all away because of a couple of mistakes? I almost laughed. You didn't make mistakes, Savannah, I said. You made choices. You chose them over me. You chose to humiliate me. And now I'm choosing to walk away. Then she flipped, right on cue. Oh please, don't act like some wounded saint, she spat. You think you're some perfect husband? You were boring, Liam. Predictable. I needed fire. Passion. You gave me routines. And you gave me lies, I said. So congratulations. You get to keep your fire. Just don't come looking for water when it burns your life down. Click. I hung up. And this time, I didn't cry. Because I realized something. She hadn't broken me. She had freed me. I looked in the mirror that night. For the first time in years, I didn't see a man trying to please someone who never valued him. I saw someone who had survived the worst kind of betrayal. The one that laughs in your face while it rots your soul behind your back. And I wasn't done yet. The day the divorce papers were officially filed, she showed up at my cabin. Unannounced. No warning. Just the crunch of gravel outside, and then a knock that made my spine stiffen. I opened the door expecting maybe a neighbor or the courier. But there she was, Savannah, standing on the porch like she still belonged anywhere near my peace. She looked different. Not messy, not crying, angry. Dressed to impress, like that would undo everything. Her arms crossed tight, chin high. This is where you ran off to, she said, stepping past me like it was her right. I didn't move. Just watched her walk into the living room and glance around like she was disappointed in the decor. As if she was expecting champagne and velvet curtains, not wood paneling and silence. You shouldn't be here, I said. I wouldn't have to be if you'd answer your damn phone. I didn't think we had anything left to say. She turned sharply. You humiliated me. You ambushed me with that lawyer. My accounts are frozen, Liam. My cards aren't working. I almost smiled. I canceled everything under my name. I said, You don't get to live off me while playing house with Derek. Derek and I. She started, then caught herself. You don't know what we are. I know enough. And I've seen enough. She stepped closer. So that's it. 10 years, and you just ghost me? You walk away without fighting. You already won the fight, Savannah. You just didn't expect me to stop playing. She blinked like she didn't understand. Like she hadn't spent months feeding me half-truths and late-night excuses. Like the years of cold shoulders and turned backs weren't hers to own. I made mistakes, she said suddenly softer. But I didn't mean for it to go like this. I sat down. Let her stand there. No, you meant to drag it out, I said. You meant to have your fun while keeping the roof and the ring. You just didn't think I'd ever leave. I was confused. No, you were selfish. She flinched. That landed. You want honesty? I said, standing now. You didn't just cheat. You mocked me. In front of your friends. In front of them. You looked me in the eye and treated me like a damn spectator in my own life. You lost the right to ask for understanding the minute you laughed at me across that dinner table. Her lip trembled, and for a second, I saw the tiniest crack in her mask. I didn't think you had it in you, she whispered. Yeah, I said. Neither did I. Then she tried one last angle, the old card. She stepped closer, put her hand on my chest, and looked up like she used to when she wanted something. You really think you'll find someone better than me? She asked, voice syrupy now. You think some new girl's gonna put up with your rigid routines and calendar reminders? No one else knows you like I do. I looked her dead in the eyes. Exactly. She stepped back. I opened the door. Don't come back, I said. Next time, you'll find the locks changed. She stood there, breathing hard like she wanted to scream. But she didn't. She just walked out slowly, heels stabbing the gravel with every step. That night, I drank a scotch by the fire and stared out into the trees. My phone buzzed once, email from my lawyer. Confirmation that she'd received the filing. Attached was a reply from her counsel. She wanted the car. Half the savings. A dignified exit. Dignity? That was rich. I closed the email and let the fire burn. Because I wasn't just letting go of her. I was letting go of the illusion that she ever loved me at all. I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I was wide awake. 2 weeks passed. Not a word from her. I thought maybe she'd finally understood that the game was over, that I was done being her fool. But women like Savannah don't lose gracefully. They circle back, like a storm that pretends to pass, only to double back when you've let your guard down. The silence broke on a Tuesday. My lawyer called. She's contesting the prenup, he said. Wants to argue coercion. Says she signed under pressure. I nearly dropped the phone from laughing. She wore white lace lingerie when she signed that thing. I said. She was drunk on champagne and begging me to marry her before I changed my mind. She's also filing a claim for emotional distress. I went quiet. Not because I was shocked, but because I finally understood. She wasn't trying to win. She was trying to drag me. Through the mud, through the system, through the kind of legal warfare that kills men slowly and silently. I booked an appointment with my accountant that same day. Moved assets. Shifted titles. Put the cabin in my brother's name. Savannah was going to learn that while she played dirty, I had prepared for dirty. The next day, she showed up again. This time at my brother's office. He called me. She asked if I wanted to grab a drink and talk about what Liam's going through. She smiled like nothing was wrong. Of course she did. She always turned the charm on when she needed something. That night, I received a video. From an unknown number. I opened it. There she was, on a beach. With Derek. Wearing a bikini I bought her. Laughing into the camera as he kissed her neck and held up a cocktail. Her voice came through, loud and clear. To freedom. Then she turned to him. He thinks he's winning. Poor guy doesn't know what's coming. It was dated. The day after she stood on my porch with fake tears and a trembling lip. That was the moment something inside me snapped for good. I booked a return trip home. Not to her, but to my old life. To close it out properly. To burn the last pages and make sure there was nothing left for her to grab. When I got there, the house looked smaller than I remembered. Empty. Cold. Like all the lies had sucked the warmth out of it. I walked room to room, noting what was mine and what wasn't. Art pieces, tech, furniture. Most of it bought with my money, chosen by her taste. I left most of it behind. I took only what mattered, my father's watch, my journals, my toolbox, and a photo, one of the few where I was smiling for real. Back at the front door, I saw it. Her red heels, the same ones from the anniversary dinner, just sitting there, like she thought I'd ever want her to walk through that door again. I took them, placed them in the trash can outside, and lit a match. Watched them melt into nothing. No drama, no rage, just silence and fire. On my way out of town, I drove past her yoga studio. There she was, on the sidewalk, laughing with Melissa, holding a smoothie and talking like her world hadn't just cracked in half. She didn't see me, but I saw her, and I smiled, because now I felt nothing. The kind of nothing that comes after the storm has taken everything, and you finally realize you didn't need any of it to begin with. 3 days later, I was sitting across from Derek. No shouting, no fists, no drama. Just two men in a coffee shop, surrounded by the sound of espresso machines and clinking cups. He looked surprised when I asked him to meet. Thought it might be some ambush. Maybe thought I'd come begging or threatening. But I didn't want revenge. I wanted answers. He looked smaller in person. Not physically. He was fit, had that gym bro frame, but something in his eyes. Weak, restless, guilty. I'm not here to scream, I said, stirring my coffee. You already won, right? He swallowed hard. Look, man, I didn't plan any of this. It just happened. That line again. The universal excuse of cowards and cheaters. I leaned back. You didn't just sleep with my wife. You moved into my life. You were in my bed, used my wine, watched my TV while she fed you lies about me being controlling. He didn't deny it. She said you stopped caring, he muttered. That you were like a shell. And that justified sneaking around behind my back. I didn't know it would go this far. Of course you didn't. Because you thought she was yours. I watched him shift in his seat. Uncomfortable. Sweaty. Like the illusion he'd bought into was cracking. Then I dropped it. She's seeing Kyle again. His eyes snapped up. What? Yeah, I said calmly. Saw them yesterday at the bar near Lexington. Holding hands. You're just the in-between. He blinked, trying to hold his composure. But the truth was a hammer, and it hit him just right. His mouth opened, then closed. And I realized something. He wasn't evil, just dumb. A stepping stone in Savannah's endless ladder of attention and thrill. I was you once, I said, standing up. And you'll become me. Only difference is, I got out. I left him there, marinating in his choices. On the drive back, I thought about how many times I'd blamed myself. All the nights I wondered what I'd done wrong, where I'd failed her. But seeing Derek like that, disoriented, betrayed, I finally understood it was never about me. Savannah needed an audience. A mirror. A man she could break so she could feel powerful. She didn't want love. She wanted worship. And when you stopped kneeling, she replaced you. Back at the cabin, I poured myself a drink. Opened the divorce email again. Scanned through her demands. She wanted the car. The lake house. Half the savings. Spousal support. I forwarded it all to my lawyer with one line. Tell her she can have the shoes I left in the trash. The next day, I woke up to a voicemail. It was her. Liam, this is insane. We don't have to go nuclear. I know things got messy, but we can fix it. I don't love Derek, okay? He was just a distraction. I miss you. I miss us. Please call me. I played it twice. Not because I missed her, but because I wanted to remember how good she was at lying, even when she was desperate. I didn't call back. Instead, I made a list. Everything I'd put on hold because of her. Places I wanted to go, things I wanted to build, people I'd pushed away. And at the top of the list, start over. Not rebuild what we had, but erase it. Then, for the first time in years, I slept without waking up at 3 a.m. in a sweat, wondering where she was. Because I didn't care anymore. Weeks went by, and her mask kept slipping. I didn't reply to her messages. There were plenty. First it was apologies. Then came the guilt tripping. Then the threats. You'll regret this. You're throwing away everything. You're not as clean as you think. I just saved them all. Forwarded them to my lawyer. Silence was my sharpest weapon now. But silence didn't sit well with Savannah. She needed control like oxygen. So she turned to chaos. I started getting strange calls, random numbers, voices asking if I wanted to know the truth about her. At first, I ignored them. But then one came in with a name I hadn't heard in years. Evan. A guy I worked with 5 years ago. We weren't close, but I knew him well enough to recognize the voice. Liam, he said, this is gonna sound insane, but I think I slept with your wife. Back in December. I didn't know you were married to her until I saw the photo on your Instagram. I didn't say a word. Just let the words drop into place. He went on, awkwardly. She told me she was single. Said she had just left a controlling guy. We hooked up at the company holiday party. I remembered that night. She'd told me she was with Melissa in Vermont. I'd even helped her pack. Booked her a massage. She came back, refreshed and distant. I thanked Evan for telling me. Hung up. Stared at the wall. She hadn't just cheated. She'd networked through men. Every guy was a means to something. Attention, distraction, leverage. I wasn't special. None of us were. We were names on a list she scribbled on cocktail napkins and forgot to throw away. The final straw came when my lawyer called. Unusually quiet. She's trying to claim emotional trauma, he said. Using the beach video you received as evidence of her mental instability. Says you weaponized surveillance against her. I laughed so hard I nearly choked. You mean the video she recorded and sent to me? Yes. She's insane. She's desperate. That night, I checked her socials. She'd blocked me, of course, but I used an old work account. What I saw made my blood turn to ice and then boil. She had posted a slideshow. Her and Derek. Her and Kyle. Her on a yacht with people I'd never seen. Captioned. Sometimes you have to burn the old to rise again. Hashtag free, hashtag unstoppable, hashtag no regrets. And beneath that, Melissa commenting, Queen behavior fire. Derek, only one of you in the world, baby. I stared at that caption for a long time. Not because it hurt, but because it confirmed that everything I'd done to walk away, everything, was right. She wasn't mourning us. She was building a new identity off the ashes. So I made one final move. The next morning, I walked into my old bank. Sat down with a friend of mine who worked in security and finance. Quietly, methodically, I locked everything down. Removed her name from every dormant account. Wiped access to anything she might try to touch. I closed the charity fund she never cared about, but always bragged to her friends she helped manage. I donated the entire balance to a shelter for abused men. In her name. Tax deductible. Later that day, I received one final text from her. I hope you're happy. You've ruined my life. I stared at it for a full minute. Then I replied, no, Savannah. You ruined mine. I just finally stopped letting you. She didn't respond. I doubt she ever will. But it doesn't matter. Because I've got nothing left to lose. And somehow, that feels like freedom. 3 months after she walked into our anniversary dinner with her ex-husband and her side piece like it was a reunion special, the divorce was finalized. No ceremony. No final battle. Just a signature, a courier, and a moment of silence in my kitchen as I stared at the last legal tie between us. I didn't toast. I didn't cry. I just exhaled, slow and deep, like I'd been holding my breath since the first time she ever lied and smiled at the same time. There was no message from her after the ruling. No call. No apology. She vanished the way someone does when they know the damage is done and the audience has stopped clapping. I kept expecting some part of me to fall apart after it was over. Regret, maybe. Emptiness. A final wave of sadness to crash over the wreckage. But it never came. Instead, I started waking up earlier. Started eating better. I picked up a guitar I hadn't touched in years. Started building furniture with my bare hands. Took long hikes. Met people who didn't know anything about Savannah or the man I used to be when I was orbiting her universe. It was strange, feeling like myself again. Like I'd crawled out of a skin I didn't know I'd been trapped inside. One night, I sat outside on the porch, whiskey in hand, watching the moonlight flicker off the lake. A voice memo came in from my lawyer, routine update. As he wrapped up, he paused and said, by the way, good job walking away. Most guys don't. And that stuck with me. Because walking away wasn't easy. It was war. It was watching someone you love become unrecognizable and dangerous, and still choosing to let go instead of begging for the version of them that only existed in your memory. But here's the truth. She wasn't my soulmate. She was my lesson. A brutal, unforgettable lesson in loving the wrong person too deeply and losing myself in the process. I learned that red flags aren't decorations, they're warnings. That just a dinner can be a declaration of war. That if someone mocks your loyalty, your commitment, your decency, they were never worthy of any of it. And to the next guy she's with, I wish him luck. He'll need it. But me? I'm finally free. Free from her games. Free from the gaslighting. Free from loving someone who loved attention more than honesty. If you're reading this and you're in the same place I was, doubting yourself, second-guessing your instincts, wondering if you're crazy for sensing the truth, you're not. You're just with someone who wants to keep you small. Leave. Pack your pride and walk. Limp if you have to. But go. Because what waits on the other side isn't just peace. It's yourself. And trust me, no one is worth losing that for.